Hello and welcome to this continuing first look exploring session looking at the Shoemakers Holiday by Thomas Dekker. We are beginning our journey into Act 3, Scene 2, or running scene count of Scene 8, and other scene divisions are available. So it's a bit confusing, actually, when talking about this with other people, because it depends which version they're looking at. So yeah, running Scene 8 or Act 3, Scene 2 in this version. Some stuff's been happening with some shoemaker, some a journeyman. There's a love plot. There's someone. Lacey is disguised himself as a Dutch shoemaker, so he's sort of wandering around pretending he can make shoes, which is fine because nobody seems to make shoes in this thing. they just pretend to make shoes, down tools, and then demand beer. That seems to be what all the workmen in this place seem to do. But we're enjoying it so far. There's a lot of good world building. There's a romantic subplot where everyone speaks in verse and everybody else speaks in prose. It's just as nature intended it, obviously. So I think things are going down. So as we continue our journey into Act 3, reading today, who do we have? Reading Eyre and Prentice is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good. I'm a historian and I'm currently still in Hull.
Reading Dodger and Sybill is...
Hello, I'm Lynn. I'm a college composition teacher, and I'm coming to you with my faithful assistant Scooter from the northwestern United States.
Reading Firk and Jane is...
Hi, I'm Eric, and yes, nothing more needs to be said, I think.
Reading Scott and Hans is...
Helen, based in Suffolk.
Reading Rose and Rafe is...
Rachael, actor on the East Coast.
Reading Hammon and Serving Man is...
Dan, still an actor in Montpellier, France.
Reading Lincoln briefly with us today is...
Sarah Blake, actor, writer and director based in Germany.
And reading Margery today is...
If my computer gods permit me to read Margery, Briony, actor in Lincolnshire. Still trying to script that.
Oh, it will happen. It will happen. We believe in the computer gods. Otherwise, how will we get into Silicon Heaven? Reading the Lord Mayor and Hodge is...
Aliki Chapple, actor and translator based in Lancashire.
Yes, because otherwise where do all the calculators go? And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading stage directions and other assorted parts that I've probably forgotten to give out. That what happened yesterday, so I think there might be some more of that today. Okay, without further ado, we're going to dive into Scene 8, or Act 3, Scene 2. Enter the Earl of Lincoln and Dodger.
How now, good Dodger? What's the news in France?
My lord, upon the 18th day of May, the French and English were prepared to fight. Each side, with eager fury, gave the sign of a most hot encounter. 5 long hours both armies fought together, and at length the lot of victory fell on our side. 12,000 of the French that day died, 4,000 English, and no man of name, but Captain Hyam and the young Ardington, 2 gallant gentlemen. I knew them well.
But Dodger, prithee, tell me, in this fight, how did my cousin Lacey bear himself?
My lord, your cousin Lacey was not there.
Not there?
No, my good lord.
Sure thou mistakest. I saw him shipped, and 1,000 eyes beside were witnesses of the farewells which he gave, when I, with weeping eyes, bid him adieu. Dodger, take heed.
My lord, I am advised. That what I spake is true. To prove it so, his cousin Askew, that supplied his place, sent me for him from France, that secretly he might convey himself thither.
Is't even so? Dares he so carelessly venture his life upon the indignation of a king? Has he despised my love, and spurned those favours which I, with prodigal hand, poured on his head? He shall repent his rashness with his soul, Since of my love he makes no estimate, I'll make him wish he had not known my hate. Thou hast no other news?
None else, my lord.
None worse, I know thou hast. Procure the king to crown his giddy brows with ample honours, send him chief colonel, and all my hope thus to be dashed. But 'tis in vain to grieve. One evil cannot a worse relieve. Upon my life, I have found out his plot. That old dog, Love, that fawned upon him so, love to that puling girl, his fair-cheeked Rose, the Lord Mayor's daughter, hath distracted him, and in the fire of that love's lunacy hath he burnt him up himself, consumed his credit, lost the king's love, yea, and I fear his life, only to get a wanton to his wife. Dodger, it is so.
I fear so, my lord.
It is so. Nay, sure it cannot be. I'm at my wit's end, Dodger.
Yea, my lord.
Thou art acquainted with my nephew's haunts. Spend this gold for thy pains. Go seek him out. Watch at my lord mayor's. There, if he live, Dodger, thou shalt be sure to meet with him. Prithee, be diligent. Lacy, thy name lived once in honour. Now 'tis dead in shame. Be circumspect.
I warrant you, my lord.
And exit. So yeah, it's like the plot. Plot is thickening, as it were. It's stuff from the first scene about people going to war. Lacy, of course, absenting himself for love reasons, and it's been found out. Lincoln's found it out. I'm sure it's going to go well. I'm sure. Lacy, thy name lived once in honour, now 'tis dead in shame. Lincoln's not a happy bunny with this news. Not impressed at all. But yeah, so is it that Dodger's come back so that Lacy can do the switcheroo now that the war's over, so that it looks like he's come back from war? So that's what's going on. This is the logistical side of doing this kind of switching. But Dodger, I think the clue's in the name. Not always a very trustworthy chap. Perhaps. Thoughts in the room. I've been chatting away. Aliki.
Well, Lacy said he was only going to be a few days, and it must have been a good deal longer than that for all of this to have happened. So I sort of think he deserves being dumped in it by Dodger.
Mm. Who else has thoughts? Helen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we should all be on the side of young love, but I mean, Lincoln's gone to a great deal of trouble to get him a commission. He sent him off to war. He even wept a few tears on the quayside as he waved him off. And now he discovers that the little turd has been absent without leave and has stuck a substitute in his place. I mean, mine entirely with Lincoln on this. On the other hand, when I was Lacy's age, I was definitely Lacy.
Well, draft dodging. Who it's quite a popular pursuit once upon a time. Lynn.
Yeah, that's funny because I'm usually kind of a rule follower and not sympathetic to people who are irresponsible and selfish. But in this scene, Lincoln just comes off as like such a humorless prig. I really don't like him very much, so I have a hard time sympathizing with him, even though he's technically right. What Lacy has done is it was really irresponsible and ungrateful and selfish. But I really don't care for Lincoln very much.
Aliki.
So I'm with Lynn on this. I don't really care for him very much either, and I note the casual misogyny against poor Rose, whose only crime is being madly in love with Lacy, and not being quite good enough for him class-wise, so far as Lincoln is concerned.
Yes, because it's Rose who distracted him from his manly pursuits. That's basically what his speech is all about. And he goes off on quite a length on that.
He does. He doesn't like women very much, I don't think.
No. Eric.
It does seem a bit. I think it was Rachael who mentioned the knight in the burning pestle yesterday, with the burning pestle, or of the burning pestle. I don't know. Many prepositions are available. Just sort of like the sort of romantic and actual, like, historic context / backdrop doesn't seem quite as interesting as the shenanigans of the shoemaker and sort of clowning stuff. So it's kind of like this would be the equivalent of like the London Merchant or whatever, the play that they're trying to keep going, basically. And we're waiting for it to sort of cross over with the actual plot or B plot, depending on how you want to term it, or A plot. I don't know, whichever plot is more fun.
Well, in a sense, it's the A plot in the sense it was the one that was introduced first. But whether it's the most important plot, I think, is debatable. Alan, then Rachael.
I must admit that the tone of Lincoln's one, yes, there is some casual misogyny in there, but I think from what was established earlier, it's far more a class issue of Lincoln looking down on the nouveau riche, who's Lord Mayor of London, and his family.
Mm-hmm. Rachael.
Yeah. About the Knight of the Burning Pestle thing.
Which comes after this. I'd just like to point out this comes first.
Yeah. But I was just gonna say it. Like what Eric said, it is like really like that for me, that I'm so into the clowning. But I do whatever the plot happened in this section, even though I was listening to it, the language itself, just like that old dog love, just things like that pop out. I'm just so interested in the clowning and in these more serious romantic bits where Dekker's just full on thrown all his poetry out. Those are the parts that I'm really enjoying of this.
Okay, we're going to move on into scene 9, or Act 3, scene 3, and we're going to, having brought up the name of the Lord Mayor, it seems like we're going to dive a little deeper into this plot strand. Enter the Lord Mayor and Master Scott.
Good Master Scott, I have been bold with you to be a witness to a wedding knot betwixt young Master Hammon and my daughter. Stand aside. See where the lovers come.
Enter Master Hammon and Rose.
Can it be possible you love me so? No, within those eyeballs I espy apparent likelihoods of flatter eye. Pray now, let go my hand.
Sweet Mistress Rose, misconstrue not my words, nor misconceive of my affection, whose devoted soul swears I love thee dearer than my heart.
As dear as your own heart? I judge it right. Men love their hearts best when they're out of sight.
I love you. By this hand.
Yet hands off now. If flesh be frail, how weak and frail's your vow?
Then by my life, I swear.
Then do not brawl. One quarrel loseth wife and life and all. Is not your meaning thus?
In faith, you jest.
Love loves to sport. Therefore, leave love your best.
What? Square they, Master Scott?
Never a doubt. Lovers are quickly in and quickly out.
Sweet Rose, be not so strange in fancying me. Nay, never turn aside, shun not my sight. I am not grown so fond to fond my love on any that shall quit it with disdain. If you will love me so, if not, farewell.
Why, how now, lovers? Are you both agreed?
Yes, faith, my lord.
As well. Give me your hand. Give me yours, daughter. How? Now both pull back. What means this, girl?
I mean to live a maid.
But not to die one. Pause ere that be said.
Will you still cross me? Still be obstinate?
Nay, chide her, not my lord, for doing well. If she can live a happy virgin's life, 'tis far more blessed than to be a wife.
Say, sir, I cannot. I have made a vow. Whoever be my husband, 'tis not you.
Your tongue is quick. But Master Hammon, no, I bade you welcome to another end.
What? Would you have me pule and pine and pray with lovely lady mistress of my heart? Pardon, your servant, and the rhymer play, railing on Cupid and his tyrant's dart? Or shall I undertake some martial spoil wearing your glove at tourney and at tilt, and tell how many gallants I unhorsed? Sweet, would this pleasure you?
Yea, when wilt begin? What? Love rhymes, man? Fie on that deadly sin.
If you will have her, I'll make her agree.
Enforced love is worse than hate to me. There is a wench keeps shop in the old change. To her will I. It is not wealth I seek. I have enough, and will prefer her love before the world. My good lord, may adieu. All love for me. I have no luck with new.
And exit Hammon.
Now, Mammet, you have well behaved yourself, but you shall curse your coyness if I live. Who's within there? See you convey your mistress straight to the old ford. I'll keep you straight enough. For God, I would have sworn the puling girl would willingly accepted Hammon's love. But banish him my thoughts. Go, minion! In!
Exit Rose.
Now, tell me, Master Scott, would you have thought that Master Simon Eyre, the shoemaker, had been of wealth to buy such merchandise?
'Twas well, my lord, your honour and myself grew partners with him. Your bills of lading show that Eyre's gain in one commodity rise at the least a full £3,000, besides like gain in other merchandise.
Well, he shall spend some of his thousands now, for I have sent for him to the Guildhall.
And enter Eyre.
See where he comes. Good morrow, Master Eyre.
Poor Simon Eyre, my lord, your shoemaker.
Well, it likes yourself to term you so.
Enter Dodger.
Now, Master Dodger, what's the news with you?
I would gladly speak in private with your honor.
Oh, you shall. Master Eyre and Master Scott, I have some business with this gentleman. I pray let me entreat you to walk before to the Guildhall. I'll follow presently. Master Eyre, I hope ere noon to call you sheriff.
I would not care, my lord, if you might call me King of Spain. Come, Master Scott.
Exit Eyre and Scott.
Oh, Master Dodger, what's the news you bring?
The Earl of Lincoln, by me, greets your lordship, and earnestly requests you, if you can, inform him where his nephew keeps.
Is not his nephew Lacy now in France?
No, I assure your lordship, but disguised lurks here in London.
London? Stephen so? Maybe, but upon my faith and soul, I know not where he lives, or whether he lives. So, tell my Lord of Lincoln. Lurks in London? Master Dodger, you may perhaps start him, but be the means to rid him into France. I'll give you a dozen angels for your pains. So much I love his honour, hate his nephew, and prithee, so inform thy lord from me.
I take my leave.
Exit Dodger.
Well, good Master Dodger. Lacy in London. I dare upon my life my daughter knows thereof, and for that cause denied young Master Hammond in his love. Well, I'm glad I sent her to Old Ford. God's Lord, 'tis late. To Guildhall I must hie. I know my brethren stay my company.
And exit. So, very much a plot continuation from the previous scene in certain ways. At the very end there, Dodger just letting the cat out of the bag of Lacey's card is now quite firmly marked. But Eyre's doing quite well. Looks like his investments that we saw him earlier have paid off, and he's now quite wealthy. And because he's quite wealthy, you can be a sheriff. They're off. Isn't that good? Now, if we go by certain indications of history. By the way, don't try and apply any history to this, because by my calculations, between the last scene and this scene, 19 years must have passed. So I wouldn't attempt history. These may technically be historical figures, but chronology is a bit wibbly wobbly here. Lots of stuff to say about this scene. I'll go to Helen.
Yeah, sheriff was not a post in 1599. Sheriff was not a post that was eagerly sought. It very often ended up causing you a tremendous amount of grief because you were responsible to the crown for all the fines collected. It wasn't an easy job. So it's because he suddenly got all this money that they found someone they can dump sheriff on. His first speech is really interesting because he's called Master Eyre. Now he's an alderman, apparently already. So master is totally appropriate. Also, he's a master of his craft. He's a master shoemaker. Master is fine, but he then declines the honor of even being called master, which is rather, considering how bucked he must be about suddenly being very, very rich. I don't know why he's doing all this fake modesty and say not a master, just poor Simon Eyre.
Oh, because he's a good, honest chap. That's presumably why. I mean, we saw him get his alderman's gown a couple of scenes ago, so it was a bit caught up in a lot of shoe action, so we didn't necessarily pick up on the significance that Simon Eyre's status just keeps increasing as the play goes on, almost in the background.
Yeah, he hasn't made King of Spain yet, though.
No. I'd like to just go back to the wooing of Rose by Hammon, and I there's something about I quite like some of this because Hammon tries his best and he woos her, and they do sort of all this courtly love shtick that he thinks she likes, and then she says no, and he goes, "Oh, sod this for a game." So, what do you expect me to? Do you really want me to do the whole joust thing? And she goes, "Yes, please." And he just says, "No, I think I'd rather go and find someone who actually likes me." And it's quite refreshing, actually. He's said no, he's told no, and he says, "Okay." We don't always get that in a love plot, Lynn.
Now that you put it that way, it is kind of nice that Hammond just takes no for an answer. Like, okay, bye-bye. I was a little flummoxed because I thought, oh, this will be a complication. It'll be a rival for Rose's love, and that'll be kind of an ongoing plot. And it's just sort of like he's introduced, he makes a feint at wooing her. She's like, "I'm not into it," and he's like, "Well, bye." It seemed like kind of a so anticlimactic, but it is kind of a fun jab at conventional courtship. So
and he does answer that question we had yesterday, because we were asking, what's Rose doing in the earlier wooing scene? Because she seems sort of into it, and she seemed at the beginning here sort of into it as well. And he's going, "No, it's just the game of a variation on courtly love, and it's just this is what you do." And then when the marriage proposal turns up, you say no, and that's what you do. It's very important to being earnest. Actually, part of that. Aliki.
I just kind of want to stress that a bit, because he's so nice about it too. He's not even like, "Oh, the stupid cow doesn't want me, I'll go and find somebody else." He's just like, "Yeah, whatever. If she wants to not get married, that's her business. Bye."
It's the Lord Mayor who's been pushing this, so it's just he's a bit put out. But that's his problem. Other thoughts in the room? It's doing a lot of business, actually. This was seen effectively threads through 3 different plot strands, or sort of arcs, quite nicely. Eric?
Well, the thing is, even if Hammond took it like quite well. The father hasn't, and neither of the fathers want Rose and Lacey together. So it's kind of like, yeah, this is not going to go well.
And as I say, then we thread to the Lacey's in disguise somewhere. Oh, we're going to get him at the end of the scene. So it threads really neatly. It's very neatly dovetailing threads. Do you dovetail threads? I don't think you do. Anyway.
Metaphors mixed while you wait.
Yes. Any other thoughts? No. Just a note on the wench. That's Jane, probably, who we have met. It's not some random person. So the person that Hammon's quite keen on is a character that we may encounter again.
It's
Eric.
funny. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Also, Dan.
No, Eric had his hand up.
I was just gonna say that, like, it's also interesting how, since you mentioned Jane, we get sort of Lacey basically has the privilege of being able to sort of avoid and duck the duty of being drafted by the whole commission thing, whereas Rafe doesn't. Which we also kind of saw in Thomas Stukely. I can't remember if he kind of ran at the whole thing and then just got married and then left. But yeah, it's just an interesting sort of point, I guess.
Sorry, Dan.
I do like this character of Hammon because you don't, as you said, you don't usually see a character like this who will go in really hard. Well, not really hard, really nicely actually, and then leave with some dignity. And then you don't know where he really stands, because he's calling her a wench on the one hand, but then he's saying, I'm not after her money, I'm actually for her love. So keeping me guessing a little bit about how I should feel about this character.
Well, it's an interesting question about how much weight wench had in terms of early modern connotations. I don't think he's meaning it quite as derogatorily as it sounds to us today.
That's what I thought too, actually.
Yeah. I mean, in a sense, if Hammon's annoyed with anyone, he's actually just annoyed with Lord Mayor, of just going, you've made me go through all these hoops. I'm not playing this game anymore. Thank you. Right. Hammon having done his due diligence, we will move to a different plot strand, as we're going to encounter the workers once again, and the management style of Eyre's workshop. Scene 10, Act 3, Scene 4. Enter Firk, Margery, Eyre's wife, Hans, who is in fact Lacey in disguise, and Roger.
Thou goest too fast for me, Roger. Oh, Firk.
Aye, forsooth.
I pray thee, run. Do you hear? Run to Guildhall and learn if my husband, Master Eyre, will take that worshipful vocation of Master Sheriff upon him. Hie thee, good Firk.
Take it? Well, I go, and he should not take it. Firk swears to forswear him. Yes, forsooth, I go to Guildhall.
Nay, when? Thou art too compendious and tedious.
Oh, rare your excellence is full of eloquence. How like a new cartwheel my dame speaks, and she looks like an old musty ale bottle going to scalding.
Nay, when? Thou wilt make me melancholy.
God forbid your worship should fall into that humour. I run.
Exit Firk.
Let me see now. Roger and Hans.
Aye, forsooth, dame, mistress, I should say. But the old term so sticks to the roof of my mouth, I can hardly lick it off.
Even what thou wilt, good Roger. Dame is a fair name for any honest Christian. But let that pass. How dost thou, Hans?
We thank you, Frau.
Well, Hans and Roger, you see, God hath blessed your master, and perdie, if ever he comes to be Master Sheriff of London, as we are all mortal, you shall see, I will have some odd thing or other in a corner for you. I will not be your back friend, but let that pass. Hans, pray thee, tie my shoe.
Ja, ik zal, Frau.
Roger, thou knowest the size of my foot. As it is none of the biggest, so I thank God, it is handsome enough. Prithee, let me have a pair of shoes made. Cork, good Roger, wooden heel too.
You shall.
Art thou acquainted with never a farthingale maker, nor a French hood maker? I must enlarge my bum, ha ha! How shall I look in a hood, I wonder? Perdie, oddly, I think.
As a cat out of a pillory. Very well, I warrant you, mistress.
Indeed, all flesh is grass. And, Roger, canst thou tell where I may buy a good hare?
Yes, forsooth, at the poulterer's in Gracious Street.
Thou art an ungracious wag. Perdie, I mean a false hair for my periwig.
Oh, why, mistress, the next time I cut my beard, you shall have the shavings of it. But they're all true hairs.
It is very hot. I must get me a fan, or else a mask.
So you had need to hide your wicked face.
Fie upon it! How costly this world's calling is. Perdie, but that it is one of the wonderful works of God, I would not deal with it. Is not Firk come yet? Hans, be not so sad. Let it pass and vanish, as my husband's worship says.
In frolic, not see how so.
Mistress, will you drink a pipe of tobacco?
Oh, fie upon it, Roger. Perdie, these filthy tobacco pipes are the most idle, slavering baubles that ever I felt. Out upon it. God bless us, men look not like men that use them.
Enter Rafe, lame.
What? Oh, sorry.
No, that's Roger.
No. What? Fellow Rafe? Mistress, look here. Jane's husband. How now? Lame? Hans make much of him. He's a brother of our trade, a good workman, and a tall soldier.
You be welcome, brother.
Perdie, I knew him not. How dost thou, good Rafe? I'm glad to see thee well.
I would to God you saw me, dame, as well as when I went from London into France.
Trust me, I am sorry, Rafe, to see thee impotent. Lord, how the wars have made him sunburnt. The left leg is not well. 'Twas a fair gift of God the infirmity took no hold a little higher, considering thou camest from France. But let that pass.
I am glad to see you well, and I rejoice to hear that God hath blessed my master so since my departure.
Yea, truly, Rafe, I thank my Maker, but let that pass.
And Sirrah Rafe, what news? What news in France?
Tell me, good Roger, first, what news in England? How does my Jane? When didst thou see my wife? Where lives my poor heart? She'll be poor indeed, now I want limbs to get whereon to feed.
Limbs? Hast thou not hands, man? Thou shalt never see a shoemaker want bread, though he have but 3 fingers on a hand.
Yet all this while I hear not of my Jane.
Oh, Rafe, your wife. Perdie, we know not what's become of her. She was here a while, and because she was married, grew more stately than became her. I checked her, and so forth. Away she flung, never returned, nor said bye nor bar, and Rafe, you know, come thee. And so, as I tell ye, Roger, is not Firk come yet?
No, forsooth.
And so, indeed, we heard not of her, but I hear she lives in London. But let that pass. If she had wanted, she might have opened her case to me or my husband, or to any of my men. I'm sure she's not any of them, Perdie. I'm sure there's not any of them, Perdie, but would have done her good to his power. Hans, look if Firk be come.
Ja, ik zal, vrouw.
Exit Hans.
And so, as I said, but Rafe, why dost thou weep? Thou knowest that naked we came out of our mother's womb, and naked we must return, and therefore thank God for all things.
No, faith, Jane is a stranger here, but Rafe, pull up a good heart. I know thou hast one. My wife, man, is in London. One told me he saw her a while ago, very brave and neat. We'll ferret her out and London hold her.
Alas, poor soul, he's overcome with sorrow. He does but as I do, weep for the loss of any good thing. But Rafe, get thee in, call for some meat and drink. Thou shalt find me worshipful towards thee.
I thank you, dame. Since I want limbs and lands, I'll trust to God, my good friends, and my hands.
And exit Rafe. Enter Hans and Firk running.
Run, good Hans! Oh, Hodge! Oh, mistress! Hodge, heave up thine ears! Mistress, smug up your looks, on with your best apparel. My master is chosen, my master is called, nay, condemned by the cry of the country to be sheriff of the city for this famous year now to come. And time now being, a great many men in black gowns were asked for their voices and their hands, and my master had all their fists about his ears presently, and they cried, aye, 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 and so I came away. Wherefore all without other grief I do salute you, Mistress Shreve.
Yeah, my master is the good man, the Shreve.
Did I not tell you, mistress? Now I may boldly say, good morrow to your worship.
Good morrow, good Roger. I thank you, my good people all. Firk, hold up thy hand. There's a threepenny piece for thy tidings.
'Tis but three halfpence, I think. Yes, 'tis threepence. I smell the rose.
But, mistress, be ruled by me, and do not speak so pullingly.
'Tis her worship speaks so, and not she. No, faith, mistress, speak to me in the old key. To it, Firk. There, good Firk. Ply your business, Hodge. Hodge, with the full mouth. I'll fill your bellies with good cheer till they cry twang.
Enter Eyre wearing a gold chain.
See, my lieber brother, here comes my mister.
Welcome home, Master Shreve. I pray God continue you in health and wealth.
See here, my Maggie. A chain, a gold chain for Simon Eyre. I shall make thee a lady. Here's a French hood for thee. On with it, on with it. Dress thy brows with this flap of a shoulder of mutton to make thee look lovely. Where be my fine men? Roger, I'll make over my shop and tools to thee. Firk, thou shalt be the foreman. Hans, thou shalt have 100 for 20. Be as mad knaves as your master Sim Eyre hath been, and you shall live to be sheriffs of London. How dost thou like me, Margery? Prince, I am none, yet I am princely born. Firk, Hodge, and Hans.
Aye, forsooth. What says your worship, Master Sheriff?
Master Sheriff.
Worship and honor, you Babylonian knaves, for the gentle craft. But I forget myself. I am bidden by my Lord Mayor to dinner to Old Ford. He's gone before, I must after. Come, Madge, on with your trinkets. Now, my true Trojans, my fine Firk, my dapper Hodge, my honest Hans, some device, some odd crotchet, some Morris or such like, for the honour of the gentlemen shoemakers. Meet me at Old Ford, you know my mind. Come, Madge, away, shut up the shop, knaves, and make holiday.
And exeunt, apart from Firk.
Oh, rare, oh, brave, come, Hodge, follow me, Hans. We'll be with them for a Morris dance.
And the journeymen follow. Exeunt. Isn't this a scene of different tones and levels? We've got... I just want to start by talking about Margery. I really like Margery there. You know, the expectation of higher status at the beginning of the scene, and then the moment the news comes, it's positively regal. You could see just that little twist, and it's something that the actor has to be careful not to overdo, but it does need to be done, if that makes sense, because it should be a delicious moment because it's set up at the beginning of the scene with this core bit in the middle that is doing some very different bit of work, and it should be a nice release, because of course we've got the return of Rafe, and he's been wounded, and reality again creeps into this comedy in a way that's really affecting. I mean, with this stage direction, exit Rafe, and then it's enter Hans and Firk running. And I'm just wondering, how quickly is Rafe exiting? How long is this moment? And then you have people running on stage and breaking the mood. So, yeah, at a time when being injured in this way might lead to destitution, they keep not talking about his wife. They keep not giving him news, and you're wondering how much of that is that they don't know and how much of it is they don't want to say what they know. All sorts of questions about this scene. Aliki.
So about Margery, I had been quite certain before that her double entendres were inadvertent, but that was a definite dirty joke there about the French pox and where Rafe's wound was. I think there's something quite sweet about the scene, though. They're very keen to reassure him that he would still have a job as a shoemaker. And the two workmen who we've seen in the three, rather, the apprentices, journeymen, whatever, shoemakers, who we've seen in a rather making fun of their master light, seem to be genuinely pleased for him and his missus. And that's quite nice. There's a bit of kind of craftsman-like solidarity there that I enjoy.
Yeah, well, I say, going from a moment of misfortune to, let's celebrate the life that we have, perhaps. Eric?
I was just wondering if they were more just happy because they got a holiday, or just like sort of rather than actually having to keep working. I know, or yeah, and well, of course more stances.
Yes, well, I'll come back to the word holiday in a minute. Lynn?
No, I think it's the sort of second-hand thrill of their master now has higher status. So that's really quite interesting that Eyre made a very good bargain with a luxury goods importer who just needed ready cash and sold him all this stuff at a bargain price, so he retailed it and made a huge amount of money. But money doesn't even seem to be the end game. Status is the end game. They're so excited about having the title of sheriff, even though doing the job is as Helen was saying, is a big pain in the ass and everyone hates you when you're the sheriff. But they're so excited about and your trinkets, all the outward markers of status. Wearing a hood instead of a hat was a status marker for women, and the gold chain, and it's like failing to make me uncomfortable about the obsession with status, because they're just so earnestly excited about it.
I'd say, but it's the fact that this scene comes with this marker in the middle of the return of Rafe. I mean, this scene it really rings the changes so that the contrast couldn't be bigger, actually, between the status of Rafe, who, yes, they're all assuring him he's got a job and, the things will be fine. But he's considerably lower down this rung. He went to war because of his status. And they're going up and he's not. Helen, then Eric.
I mean, I completely agree with you about Rafe, because provision for disabled soldiers was pretty much nil. You could get a license to beg if you were lucky and knew the right people, but that was about it. You relied on your friends and family. But the thing that I loved about this scene, and I have actually used it quite a lot in teaching, is that Margery demonstrates perfectly that the early modern question, does my bum look big in this? The answer that is expected is yes. Because the first thing she wants, apart from getting a French hood, is, I must enlarge my bum.
That's right. I love that line.
And this is very much it's. I mean, we've had an awful lot about clothes as part of status in this play already, I mean, there was the description of Lacey, there was Sybill's accretions, and now we're nowhere is it explained why Lacey dumps this glorious trading opportunity into Eyre's lap, but doesn't appear to get anything out of it for himself. Very odd.
Eric.
Well, she is also called, Cicely Bum Trinket by her husband. So I guess
that turned out to be someone else.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yep. But what I found interesting was the irony of her saying to Firk, "You're compendious and tedious," and so on, and then Eyre turns up and like has all these, how do you call it, adjectives and expressions and paragraph long like descriptions of his men and his family and so on and so forth, which are more compendious than the rest of them put together.
Briefly, Aliki, and then we'll move on.
No, I just think what she really meant was, I'm in a hurry to find out. Shut up and go.
Yes, we're used to compendious being the term for someone who's about to make a massive speech that never ends. Okay. Well, we go into our next scene, scene 11 or Act 3, scene 5, which in a sense is a straight turnaround of this scene. It's sort of people have run off stage and they're pretty much running straight back on stage with a new combination because they've changed location, but the energy seems to still very much be the same. We have a song in the middle of this scene. We don't know if this is actually where this song lives. This song editor has put this song here, so when we hit the song, just buyer beware, it may not live here. But we'll see how well it feels. Enter the Lord Mayor, Rose, Eyre, Margery in a French hood, Sybill, and other servants.
Trust me, you are as welcome to Old Ford as myself.
Truly, I thank your lordship.
Would our bad cheer were worth the thanks you give.
Good cheer, my Lord Mayor. Fine cheer. A fine house. Fine walls, all fine and neat.
Now, by my troth, I'll tell thee, Master Eyre, it does me good, and all my brethren, that such a madcap fellow as thyself is entered into our society.
Aye, but, my lord, he must learn how to put on gravity.
Oh, peace, Maggie, a fig for gravity. When I go to Guildhall in my scarlet gown, I'll look as demurely as a saint and speak as gravely as a justice of peace. But now I'm here at Old Ford, at my good Lord Mayor's house. Let it go by, vanish. Maggie, I'll be merry. Away with flip-flap, these fooleries, these gulleries. Oh, what honey, prince I am none, yet I am princely born. What says my Lord Mayor?
I had rather than £1,000 I had a heart but half so light as yours.
Why, what should I do, my lord? A pound of care pays not a dram of debt. Let's be merry whilst we are young. Old age, sack and sugar will steal upon us ere we be aware.
And we have the placement here of the first Three Men song.
Oh, the month of May, the merry month of May, so frolic, so gay, so green, so green, so green. Oh, and then I did unto my true love say, sweet Peg, thou shalt be my summer's queen. Now the nightingale, the pretty nightingale, the sweetest singer in all the forest choir, entreats thee, sweet Peggy, to hear thy true love's tale. Lo yonder she sitteth, her breast against a briar. But oh, I spy the cuckoo, the cuckoo, the cuckoo. See where she sitteth, come away, my joy. Come away, I prithee. I do not like the cuckoo. Should sing where my Peggy and I kiss and toy. Oh, the month of May, the merry month of May, so frolic, so gay, so green, so green, so green. And then did I unto my true love say, sweet Peg, thou shalt be my summer's queen.
It is well done. Mistress Eyre, pray give good counsel to my daughter.
I hope Mistress Rose will have the grace to take nothing that's bad.
Pray God she do, for, faith, Mistress Eyre, I would bestow upon that peevish girl 1,000 marks more than I mean to give her, upon condition she be ruled by me. The ape still crosseth me. There came of late a proper gentleman of fair revenues, whom gladly I would call son-in-law, but my fine cockney would have none of him. You'll prove a coxcomb for it ere you die. A courtier or no man must please your eye.
Oh, be ruled, sweet Rose. Thou'rt ripe for a man. Marry not with a boy that has no more hair on his face than thou hast on thy cheeks. A courtier, wash, go by, stand not upon pishy-pashery. These silken feathers are but painted images. Outsides, Rose, their inner linings are torn. No, my fine mouse, marry me with a gentleman grocer, like my Lord Mayor, your father. A grocer is a sweet trade. Plums. Had I a son or daughter should marry out of the generation and blood of the shoemakers, he should pack. What? The gentle trade is a living for a man throughout Europe, through the world.
A noise within of a tabor and a pipe.
What noise is this?
Oh, my Lord Mayor, a crew of good fellows, that for love of your honour come hither with our morris dance. Come in, my Mesopotamians, cheerily.
Enter Hodge, Hans, Rafe, Firk, and the other shoemakers in a morris. After a little dancing, the Lord Mayor speaks.
Master Eyre, are all these shoemakers?
All cordwainers, good Lord Mayor.
How like my Lacey looks yonder shoemaker.
Oh, that I durst but speak unto my love.
Sybill, go fetch some wine to make these drink. You are all welcome.
Thank you, Lordship.
Rose takes a cup of wine and goes to Hans.
For his sake, whose fair shape thou represent'st, good friend, I drink to thee.
Bedank, good Frister.
I see, Mistress Rose, you do not want judgment. You have drunk to the prosperous man I keep.
Here be some who've done their parts to be as proper as he.
Well, urgent business calls me back to London. Good fellows, first go in and taste our cheer, and to make merry as you homeward go, spend these 2 angels in beer at Stratford Bow.
To these 2, my bad lads, Sim Eyre adds another. Then cheerily, Firk, tickle it, Hans, and for the honour of shoemakers.
And they all go dancing out.
Master Eyre, let's have your company.
And exeunt Lord Mayor and Master Eyre, and most people apart from Rose and Sybill.
Sybill, what shall I do?
Why, what's the matter?
That Hans, the shoemaker, is my love Lacey, disguised in that attire to find me out. How should I find the means to speak with him?
What, mistress, never fear. I dare venture my maidenhead to nothing, and that's great odds, that Hans the Dutchman, when we come to London, shall not only see and speak with you, but in spite of all your father's policies, steal you away and marry you. Will not this please you?
Do this, and ever be assured, my love.
Away then, and follow your father to London, lest your absence cause him to suspect something. Tomorrow, if my counsel be obeyed, I'll bind you, Prentice, to the gentle trade.
And they exit. Do this and ever be assured of my love. I feel that should be accompanied with a piece of clothing.
Jewelry or something.
Yeah, I feel the demonstration of a bribe at that point is most necessary, as we know from last time between Rose's and Sybill's relationship. Again, lots of stuff going on in here. I'm not wholly convinced about the placement of the Three Men song. I think you could just as easily go with the Dancing Morris as anything else. It could also act as a scene break between the previous scene and this scene, in the sense that there's an awful lot of people moving on and off. But I think it's fair to say it probably lives somewhere around here. Production, make your own choice. Lynn.
Yeah, speaking of stage business that you just can't help envisioning, when Eyre is talking to Rose and saying, oh, you don't want to marry a courtier, you want to marry a regular guy, like a grocer, like your dad used to be. I can just see the mayor kind of giving him the side eye, like, okay, I don't need to be reminded of my tradesman's past. I'm a mayor now.
Yeah, I mean, it's that thing of just plums, which is both reminding him of the sort of nuts and bolts of his profession, but also we're talking about finding a young man. There's I assume an unintended double entendre where that I quite like. Eric.
Wasn't the Lord Mayor presumably like the sheriff just a 1-year gig? So they kind of had so this kind of status thing is just kind of an illusion in a way. Well, I mean, status kind of as in they would have the status like they'd be members of the company or whatever, but they wouldn't be sort of. Yeah, because he goes, "Oh, it's good to welcome you to our society" and that kind of thing. But it's like you're only here for a year, mate.
Yeah, but it's it's an expensive gig, as Helen was saying. It's also a much more expensive gig to be the Lord Mayor as well. I mean, you're spending quite a lot of cash to be Lord Mayor as well. So yeah, I think just also on that point about social status of going, oh, you should marry someone like your dad, a grocer, and the dad is going, you don't understand how upward mobility works, do you? I'm kind of hoping to work a further rung up the ladder if I can manage it. Some landed gentry would be nice. Alan.
Yeah, I was just thinking Eric's comment there about it being a 1-year status thing. Given the Lord Mayor automatically gets knighted, it isn't quite the one-shot gig that he was maybe suggesting.
Yeah, like if you run the National Theatre, guaranteed knighthood. It's part of the gig.
But you've probably got to do that for more than a year.
Usually,
whereas
yes.
Lord Mayor of London is automatic for the year, isn't it?
Yeah. But I don't wonder in this historical period whether it, you have to get renewed, but multiple turns. I think at this point in history is within the context of the play, not in terms of when the play was made. I'm thinking of the earlier ones. I think there are consecutive Lord Mayors earlier in time. I could be wrong. That's just off the top of my head.
I think Helen had got some data on that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it isn't important for in the context of the play. You will get, if you do get a consecutive one, it'll be because something has gone seriously wrong, like the elect guy has dropped dead or something. I mean, things can happen like that, but
I'm thinking medieval rather than early modern.
The medieval people were really, really strange.
Speaks the early modernist. Moving on. So it's a fun scene. There's lots of action. There's a little bit of plot. I love the way. I don't know. Does Hans/Lacey reveal himself to Rose, or does Rose just go, hang on, it's clearly him? There's nobody else see through this obvious disguise. Obviously it's. I wonder how you do that, because I quite like the idea that it's a rubbish disguise, and the Lord Mayor hasn't noticed. Hodge hands Rafe and Firk and a Dancer Morris. That's a slightly worrying picture. Helen and Eric.
According to the reading early plays group who study which actors took which parts, there was an actor at this time whose speciality was one-legged stuff.
Well, almost exactly the same time we've got the Alarin for London, which also has Stump as a character. It seems to be a thing.
Yeah, they had someone who did it well. But I think the Lord Mayor is completely. I mean, the Lord Mayor isn't going to notice that one of them's one of the Dutchmen's in disguise, because he's completely overwhelmed by the fact that Eyre has not only come to dinner, he's also brought the entertainment.
Yeah, it's like, noise of a pipe, and just go, what the hell is that? You can see the Lord Mayor. There's a lot of room for manoeuvre with how the Lord Mayor says, "Are all these shoemakers?" Okay. Any other thoughts before we move on to the next scene? Eric, yes, sorry.
It was just more of a question, because like there's that line which I pointed out in the chat that I have no idea what it means. So you could tell me if I misinterpreted it. Just here be some have done their parts to be as proper as he. Basically, like, yeah, well, I'm here too. Kind of. I think that's kind of what Firk was going for, but I have no idea. He's kind of his back and forth with Margery is very weird. I mean, the sort of playfulness of it is fun, but yeah. No.
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm just finding the line. Yes. Yes. How much does Firk know? At that point. I do not know the answer to that. I don't know if other people have a thought.
Director's choice.
Yeah. Okay, going with that. All the power to the director, all the production. Okay, scene 12 then, or as we have it, Act 4, Scene 1. And Jane is in a sempster's shop, working, and enter Master Hammon, muffled at another door. He stands aloof.
Yonder's the shop, and there my fair love sits. She's fair and lovely, but she is not mine. Would she were mine. Yeah, thrice have I courted her. Thrice have my hands been moistened with her hand, whilst my poor famished eyes do feed on that which made them famish. I am unfortunate. I still love one, yet nobody loves me. I muse in other men what women see. That I so want, fine Mistress Rose was coy, and this too curious. Oh no, she is chaste, and for she thinks me wanton, she denies to cheer my cold heart with her sunny eyes. How prettily she works. Oh, pretty hand. Oh, happy work. It doth me good to stand unseen to her. Thus I oft have stood in frosty evenings, a light burning by her, enduring biting cold, only to eye her. One only look hath seemed as rich to me as a king's crown. Such is love's lunacy. Muffled, I'll pass along, and by that try whether she know me.
Sir, what is it you buy? What is it you lack, sir? Calico or lawn, fine cambric shirts or bands? What will you buy?
That which thou wilt not sell, faith, yet I'll try. How do you sell this handkerchief?
Good cheap.
And how these ruffs?
Cheap too.
And how this band?
Cheap too.
All cheap. How sell you then this hand?
My hands are not to be sold.
To be given then. Nay, faith, I come to buy.
But none knows when.
Good, sweet. Leave work a little while. Let's play.
I cannot live by keeping holiday.
I'll pay you for the time which shall be lost.
With me you shall not be so much a cost.
Look how you wound this cloth, so you won't wound this cloth. Well, so you wound me.
It may be so.
'Tis so.
What remedy?
Nay, Faith, you are too coy.
Let go my hand.
I will do any task at your command. I would let go this beauty were I not in mind to disobey you by a power that controls kings. I love you.
So now part.
With hands I may, but never with my heart. In faith, I love you.
I believe you do.
Shall a true love in me breed hate in you?
I hate you not.
Ah, then you must love.
I do. What are you better now? I love not you.
All this, I hope, is but a woman's fray. That means, come to me when she cries away. In earnest, mistress, I do not jest. A true chaste love hath entered in my breast. I love you dearly, as well as I love my life. I love you as a husband loves a wife. That and no other love my love requires. Thy wealth I know is little. My desires thirst not for gold. Sweet, beauteous Jane, what's mine shall, if thou make mine myself thine, all be thine. Say, judge, what is thy sentence? Life or death? Mercy or cruelty lies in thy breath.
Good sir, I do believe you love me well, for 'tis a silly conquest, silly pride for one like you. I mean, the gentleman to boast that by his love tricks he has brought such and such women to his amorous lure. I think you do not so, yet many do, and make it even a very trade tool. I could be coy as many women be, feed you with sunshine smiles and wanton looks. But I detest witchcraft. Say that I do constantly believe, you constantly have.
Why dost thou not believe me?
I believe you, but yet, good sir, because I will not grieve you with hopes to taste the fruit which will never fall. In simple truth, this is the sum of all. My husband lives, at least I hope he lives. Pressed was he to these bitter wars in France. Bitter they are to me by wanting him. I have but one heart, and that heart's his due. How can I then bestow the same on you? Whilst he lives, his I live, be it ne'er so poor, and rather be his wife than a king's whore.
Chaste and dear woman, I will not abuse thee, although it cost my life if thou refuse me. Thy husband pressed for France. What was his name?
Ralph Damport.
Damport. Here's a letter sent from France to me, from a dear friend of mine, a gentleman of place. He doth write their names and have been slain in every fight.
I hope death's scroll contains not my love's name.
Cannot you read?
I can.
Peruse the same. To my remembrance, such a name I read amongst the rest. Here, see here.
I mean, he's dead. He's dead. If this be true, my dear heart's slain.
Have patience, dear love.
Hence.
Nay, sweet Jane, make not poor sorrow proud, which these rich tears. I mourn thy husband's death because thou mournest.
That bill is forged. 'Tis signed by forgery.
I'll bring the letters sent besides to many, carrying the like report. Jane, 'tis too true. Come, weep not. Mourning, though it rise from love, helps not the mourned, yet hurts them to that mourn.
For God's sake, leave me.
Whither dost thou turn? Forget the dead. Love them that are alive. His love is faded. Try how mine will thrive.
'Tis now no time for me to think on love.
'Tis now best time for you to think on love, because your love lives not.
Though he be dead, my love to him shall not be buried. For God's sake, leave me to myself alone.
'Twould kill my soul to leave thee drowned in moan. Answer me to my suit, and I am gone. Say to me, yea or no.
No.
Then farewell. One farewell will not serve. I come again. Come dry these wet cheeks. Tell me, faith, sweet Jane, yea or no, once more.
No.
Nay, then I will grow rude by this white hand until you change that cold no. Here I'll stand to buy your hard heart.
Jane,
Jane.
you're muted.
Sorry, I lost my script. It just disappeared. Oh, heart. Yes, sorry. Please.
So by your hard heart,
Nay, for God's love, peace. My sorrows by your presence more increased. Not that you thus are present, but all grief desires to be alone. Therefore, in brief, this much I say, and saying bid adieu. If ever I wed man, it shall be you.
blessed voice, dear Jane, I'll urge no more. Thy breath hath made me rich.
Death makes me poor.
And exit. Okay, I think it's fair to say that Hammon has burnt through all his brownie points from earlier. There they go, onto the fire, and burnt away. I mean, there's a very important question at the centre of this scene. It doesn't make Hammon... it makes him either worse or just a shit. But it's the question of this letter. Is it a total lie, or is it just a misreporting of from a confused battlefield? You know, the plausibility of the man happening to have a list of the dead, considering that we had a statistic earlier which said quite a lot of people died. So it's quite, you know, how long is this bit of paper? So you know, the production needs to make a decision. Has he prepared this lie, or is it actually he's just wrong? Still makes him a pretty awful person. But yeah, I'll go to Aliki first.
Well, I guess it depends on whether Jane can read. She says she can. Can she? And of course, Rafe was hit, so it's possible that he was misunderstood to be dead. But what a wonderful portrait of single-minded obliviousness on Hammon's part, and courteous, firm, determined refusal on Jane's. Really fascinating little scene. I mean, there's something very comic about it, but it's also very, very horribly sad. Whoever is playing Jane has quite a lot to do.
And it parallels, you know, at exactly the same time, or almost exactly the same time, we've got another Jane Shaw doing something similar in terms of her husband's very much alive and wandering around, and but again we have a similar sort of situation here of someone making these kind of advances, someone who's sitting in a shop. So you know, the two Edward the Fourth plays that are on, I say, pretty much exactly the same time as this. Rachael.
Yeah, the verse in the beginning of this, like that Hammon's saying, if this was a different play, I think this would be like, you know, a playwright would have written this as very genuine, like love stuff. And I do believe the characters believe what they're saying. But for Hammon's thing, it's kind of like this interesting thing where sometimes people try and imitate things they see in romantic comedies, and it felt like that's what this language is that he's imitating something he's seen either in a romance he's read or on stage, and that was very interesting, and it was kind of a funny bit, like because of the cluelessness or like naivete that he has with romance, even if he's badgering and he's being street harassing, because at first it wasn't it's not that it wasn't serious, because it's very gross, but at the same time I think there's something that it's like, oh, he's one of these guys type thing, you know. Him asking her if he can read is a legitimate question, I think, for this period, but it's also, I think as a modern person, it's like, oh, is he going to mansplain reading or something to her type moment? And then it kind of goes off into this, whether he means it or not, you know, whether it's constructed or not. I think as somebody watching that scene just now, that it takes a very nefarious turn, and it seems very mean-hearted and mean-spirited, and it goes from, you know, a street harassment moment that could have been laughed off, or could have, you know, because he felt like the butt of the joke in the beginning, to something very serious and coercive and, very slimy and icky.
Yeah, and we've got this scene that, following on from Dancing, Dancing, Dancing Morris, again, we have these tonal shifts in a comedy that are moving in very different directions and, emotionally pushing all sorts of different buttons throughout. So this play continues to just keep throwing interesting curveballs at us as to what to expect. I mean, Hammon doesn't. Very briefly though, because we've got a lot still to get through. I'll go to Lynn, then Eric.
Yeah, not that I disagree about the tonal shifts, but we do know, we have been told, we've been shown that Rafe is alive. He's injured. But he's recovered from that, and he's looking for her. He and the apprentices and journeymen and stuff are going to try to help him. We might fairly assume. So we have reason to be at least optimistic that that's going to work out. So we're not too completely afraid that Jane's going to be bullied into a loveless marriage. We have reason to be optimistic that things will work out for her.
And then Eric.
I was just going to say that it's interesting how Jane, I get the impression that Jane has had to face this before, not necessarily with Hammon, but also with other guys, because she kind of has this thing of, yes, I love, and then he's like, you love me, and then like, no, I love, but not you specifically. It's kind of this sort of, she's kind of streetwise about this situation. She knows what he wants, and he's kind of, I'm not going to lie to you. I could lead you on. I won't, because I'm not interested in that kind of thing. It's just a sort of fascinating character note compared to, say, Rose, who was playful earlier.
Yeah. Okay, we have to move on, though I'm sure there's actually quite a lot more to say. Scene 13 in our running count, or Act 4, Scene 2. Hodge is at his shopboard. There's also Rafe, Firk and Hans, and a boy at work, and they all seem to be singing.
Hey, down, Derry.
Well said, my hearts. Ply your work today. We loitered yesterday. To it pell-mell, that we may live to be Lord Mayors, or aldermen at least.
Hey, down, Derry.
Oh, well said in faith. How sayest thou, Hans? Doth Lord Firk take a lid?
Yeah, master.
Not so neither. My organ pipe squeaks this morning for want of liquoring. Hey, down, Derry.
Forward, Firk. Thou best and jolly youngster. Forty, mister. Ich bid jou, cut me a pair of ambrose for Mr. Jeffress' boots.
Thou shalt, Hans.
Master.
How now, boy?
Pray now you are in the cutting vein, cut me out a pair of counterfeits, or else my work will not pass current. Hey, down.
Tell me, sirs, are my cousin Mrs. Priscilla's shoes done?
Your cousin? No, master, one of your aunts hanger. Let them alone.
I am in hand with them. She gave charge that none but I should do them for her.
Thou do for her, then 'twill be a lame doing, and that she loves not. Rafe, thou mightst have sent her to me, i'faith. I would have yerked and firked your Priscilla. Hey, down, Derry, this gear will not hold.
How sayest thou, Firk? Were we not merry at Old Ford?
How merry? Why our buttocks went jiggy-joggy like a quagmire? Well, Sir Roger Oatmeal, if I thought oatmeal of that nature, I would eat nothing but bag puddings.
Of all good fortunes, my fellow Hans had the best.
'Tis true, because his mistress Rose drank to him.
Well, work apace. They say 7 of the aldermen be dead, or very sick.
I care not. I'll be none.
No, nor I. But then my master Eyre will come quickly to be Lord Mayor.
Enter Sybill.
Woo! There comes Sybill.
Bell, welcome, i' faith, and how dost thou, mad wench?
Sibhor, welcome to London.
God a mercy, sweet Firk. Good Lord, Hodge, what a delicious shop you have got. You tickle it in faith.
God a mercy, Sybill, for our good cheer at Old Ford.
That you shall have, Rafe.
Nay, by the mass, we had tickling cheer, Sybill, and how the plague dost thou and Mistress Rose and my Lord Mayor? I put the women in first.
Well, God a mercy. But gods of me, I forget myself. Where's Hans, the Fleming?
Hark, Butterbox, now you must yelp out some spreken.
What begale you? What would you, Krista?
Mary, you must come to my young mistress to pull on her shoes you made last.
Where ben your edle vrouw? Ja ben your mistress?
Mary, here in our London house? In
Well,
Cornhill?
Will nobody serve her turn but Hans?
No, sir. Come, Hans. I stand upon needles.
Why then, Sybill, take heed of pricking.
For that, let me alone. I have a trick on my budget. Come, Hans.
Ja, ik zal meet you you're gone.
And exit Hans and Sybill.
Go, Hans, and make haste again. Now, come, who lacks work?
I, master, for I lack my breakfast. 'Tis munching time and past.
Is't so? Why, then leave work, Ralph, to breakfast. Boy, look to the tools. Come, Rafe, come, Firk.
And they exit. Again, we have this scene of work. I mean, plot-wise, it's sort of this late arrival of Sybill to bring the love people together. But it's sort of this working song, "Hey Down a Down Derry," which you really want them all over their benches and they're hitting hammers in time with the song. This is potentially also where the second song in the manuscript goes, that they might actually sing a longer refrain. Other people put it elsewhere. It's not in this one that we're reading, but it could be, and I do like that there's this idea of a working song that they might be working to. Any thoughts on the room? It's a fun one. I like it. Rachael.
I think for this song you could play around with unless the music for it still exists, you could play around with the beat of it, where you could have somebody who's off time, the rest of them could be on time, and then perhaps maybe one of them off time.
That would be Hans. It would have to be Hans, the one who's not really a shoemaker. So they're all going bang, da-lang, dang, dang, bang. It's the Dad's Army joke of all standing to attention at the same time, apart from the corporal. Eric.
There are so many things in this scene where the whole mistress, sort of my cousin Priscilla's shoes and all that stuff, kind of it just, and obviously sort of the pretending to misunderstand or misunderstanding on purpose. It's kind of, none but I should do them for her, thou do for her, that it will be lame doing, and so on and so forth. And it's kind of, it seems like shop talk, but also full of sex jokes and bag puddings.
Yeah, I mean, but that's presumably what shop talk is. It's just they're all making these, and that's the thing about, we were saying the other day about, whether some of these lines are played for laughs from the audience or whether they're actually all just about the atmosphere of the shop. This is what these lads are always doing. They're always making these terrible sex jokes. And some of them might land and some of them might not. Sybill plays to it. But Sybill, we know, is quite game in this regard. Sadly, we need to move on again. We've got 2 more scenes left to do this session that we need to rustle through. They're quite short though, so that's fine. So Act 4, Scene 3, or Scene 14 of the running count. Enter a serving man.
Let me see now. The sign of the last in Tower Street, mas yonder's the house. Whoa! Who's within?
Who calls there? What want you, sir?
Mary, I would have a pair of shoes made for a gentlewoman against tomorrow morning. What can you do then?
Yes, sir, you shall have them. But what length's her foot?
Why, you must make them in all parts like this shoe. But at any hand, fail not to do them, for the gentlewoman is to be married very early in the morning.
How? By this shoe must it be made? By this? Are you
How?
sure, sir, by this? Are you
How?
sure, sir, by this?
How? By this am I sure. By this. Art thou in thy wits? I tell thee, I must have a pair of shoes. Eh? Dost thou mark me? A pair of shoes. 2 shoes made by this very shoe. This same shoe against tomorrow morning by 4 o'clock. Dost thou understand me? Canst thou do't?
Yes, sir, yes, I can, Dot. By this shoe, you say? I should know this shoe. Yes, sir, yes, by this shoe. I can dot. 4 o'clock. Well, whither shall I bring them?
To the sign of the Golden Ball in Whaling Street. Inquire for one Master Hammon, a gentleman, my master.
Yea, sir. By this shoe, you say?
I say Master Hammon at the Golden Ball. He's the bridegroom, and those shoes are for his bride.
They shall be done by this shoe. Well, Master Hammon at the Golden Shoe. I would say the Golden Ball. Very well, but I pray you, sir, where must Master Hammon be married?
At St. Faith's Church under Paul's, but what's that to thee? Prithee dispatch those shoes, and so farewell.
And exit the serving man.
By this shoe, said he. How am I amazed at this strange accident. Upon my life, this was the very shoe I gave my wife when I was pressed for France. Since when, alas, I never could hear of her. It is the same. And Hammon's bride, no other but my Jane.
Enter Firk.
Hails, Rafe, thou hast lost thy part of 3 pots. A countryman of mine gave me to breakfast.
I care not. I have found a better thing.
A thing? Wait, is it a man's thing or a woman's thing?
Firk, dost thou know this shoe?
No, by my troth. Neither doth that know me. I have no acquaintance with it. 'Tis a mere stranger to me.
Why, then I do. This shoe, I durst be sworn, once covered the instep of my Jane. This is her size, her breadth, thus trod my love. These true love knots I pricked. I hold my life by this old shoe. I shall find out my wife.
Old shoe that weren't new. How murrain can this aid you fit of foolishness upon me?
Thus, Firk, even now here came a serving man. By the shoe would he have a new pair made against tomorrow morning for his mistress, that's to be married to a gentleman. And why may not this be my sweet Jane?
And why mayest not thou be my sweet ass?
Well, laugh and spare not, but the truth is this. Against tomorrow morning I'll provide a lusty crew of honest shoemakers to watch the going of the bride to church. If she prove Jane, I'll take her in despite from Hammon and the devil, were he by. If it be not my Jane, what remedy? Hereof I am sure, I shall live till I die, although I never with a woman lie.
And exit Rafe.
Thou lie with a woman to build nothing but cripplegates. Well, God sends fools fortune, and it may be, but he may lie upon his matrimony by such a device. For a wedding and hanging goes by destiny.
And exit Firk. So, yeah, we have, as commented, Cinderella. He recognises, and Rafe is just totally stunned, but he sees the shoe, and it's whose shoe? What, this is the shoe? And the serving man who, okay, is a bit officious, but is also just going, why are you asking such strange questions? What is wrong? Just make me a shoe. Who wants to leap in? Rachael.
I do love city comedies because it's like customer service, the eternal bad customer of customer service walking in It's like 400 years of never changing, or like that tablet or something that they found like in ancient, wherever they wrote the tale of Gilgamesh about the guy complaining about his boss, like these things about living in a city that never change no matter how much time goes by.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's terrible. They're going to get such a bad review on TripAdvisor, aren't they? It's. Any other thoughts? Firk comes in, does some similar sort of business in a sense of not fully understanding what Rafe is actually talking about. Makes a really horrible joke on the way out. I feel like Firk is really heading for a Netflix special, isn't he? It's.
Get his car, please.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts before we leap into our final scene of the session? Eric.
I kind of like, Firk has dodgy jokes, but I did enjoy the whole. I have no acquaintance with this shoe. It's a mere stranger with me. It's just kind of a bit surreal, almost. Kind of. Why should I know this shoe better than any other kind of thing?
Yeah, it's a really bloody weird question, to be fair. Do you ever know this shoe? No, it's a shoe. Rachael.
I was also, it feels like Rafe is a little older than the rest of the journeymen in the shop. Not just because he's married, but because he's not, he doesn't seem to be in the flow of all their jokes and their humor and, all they're just eat and drink, and then the one guy is probably not really a Dutchman, but we'll just go along with it because it's funny.
Helen, very briefly, and then we'll move on.
I think the problem is not that he's older. I think the problem is that Rafe and Jane are in a completely different play. And it's a beautiful play.
A sweet play.
And it's a play full of peril, and I worry about these guys. Is he going to be in time?
Well, that's presumably the anxiety that the playwright is trying to pass on to the viewer at home or in the audience.
Yeah.
We won't find out today, I don't think, but tomorrow, an answer will be given. Act 4, Scene 4, running Scene 15. Enter Hans, or Lacey in disguise, and Rose, arm in arm.
Happy am I by embracing thee. Oh, I did fear such crosshaps did rain, that I should never see my Rose again.
Sweet Lacey, since fair opportunity offers herself to further our escape, but not to overfond esteem of me hinder that happy hour. Invent the means, and Rose will follow thee through all the world.
Oh, how I surfeit with excess of joy, made happy by thy rich perfection. But since thou payest sweet interest to my hopes, redoubling love on love, let we once more, like to a bold-faced debtor, crave of thee, this night to steal abroad, and at Eyre's house, who now by death of certain alderman is mayor of London, and my master once, meet thou thy Lacey, where, in spite of change, your father's anger and mine uncle's hate, our happy nuptials we will consummate.
Enter Sybill.
Oh God, what will you do, mistress? Shift for yourself. Your father is at hand. He's coming. He's coming. Master Lacey, hide yourself in my mistress. For God's sake, shift for yourselves.
You're hither come, sweet Rose. What shall I do? Where shall I hide me? How shall I escape?
A man, and want wit in extremity. Come, be Hans still. Play the shoemaker. Pull on, play the shoemaker. Pull on my shoe.
Enter the Lord Mayor.
That's remembered, well remembered.
Here comes your father.
Beware, mistress, to some good scowl. It shall be well do't, or ye shall ne'er be tollen.
Oh, God, it pincheth me. What will you do?
Your father's presence pinches, not the shoe.
Well done. Fit my daughter well, and she shall please thee well.
Ja, me dat, wel verweer. 'Tis a good school. 'Tis giemand. Van niets leader than ever, mynheer.
Enter Apprentice.
I do believe it. What's the news with you?
Please you, the Earl of Lincoln at the gate is newly lighted and would speak with you.
The Earl of Lincoln come to speak with me. Well, I know his errand. Daughter Rose, send hence your shoemaker. Dispatch, have done. Sib, make things handsome. Sir Boy, follow me.
And
Uncle come. But what may this portend? Sweet Rose, this of our love threatens an end.
Be not dismayed at this. Whate'er befall, Rose is thine own. To witness I speak true. Where thou appoint'st the place, I'll meet with thee. I will not fix a day to follow thee, but presently steal hence. Do not reply. Love which gave strength to bear my father's hate shall now add wings to further our escape.
And they exit. What I really like about this is that Rose is, having read all the romantic literature, knows exactly what to do in this situation, and is slightly disappointed when Lacey turns, what do I do? What do I do? And you're going, you're a man in this situation. You should just know what you're doing. I'm sorry, I'm very disappointed in you. Pretend to be the shoemaker. There's some lovely stuff in there. I also like the idea that Rose now has to wander around in shoes that don't fit her. That basically she's now hobbled and so hobbles off the stage, having been forced to pretend that they fit. So there's nice bits of comedy business tailored into this as well. It's really nice. Lynn.
Yeah, I was just thinking something quite similar, Rob, that Rose in the first third was sort of colorless. But in this, she really kind of comes into her own and just like snap out of it. Just keep pretending you're the shoemaker. It'll be fine. We're gonna get married. We're gonna do this. We've made it. So she really sort of stands up for herself and keeps her wits up about her and shows some character here that wasn't necessarily signaled in the first third of the play. So an actress now has something to sort of work with.
I think it all fits as a piece. Is that thing that she's living the world of romance, and when it comes to the denouement of the story, she knows exactly what she's supposed to do. That's quite fun. So we've had mentioned in passing earlier, and it's followed up here that there's a lot of dying aldermen about. And Eyre's now Lord Mayor of London. Just happened. He's now the Lord Mayor. So even though we're talking about the Lord Mayor, he's the Lord Mayor in this scene is actually the former Lord Mayor, because he's actually ceased to be Lord Mayor. It's all passed around. That seems to be the intimation here. I just love the way that Eyre's upward mobility seems to be just random chance. It doesn't seem to be anything to do with anything apart from just things keep happening, and it's like there's a magic fairy just going, "You shall become Lord Mayor," which is just quite delightful. I'm just liking that happening in passing. Eric.
I just like the picture that, sort of Hans, what you said basically for Lacey and Rose. Like a man in one wit and extremity, she kind of clobbers him. Well, maybe not clobbers him right in the head, but sort of like you're sort of throwing the shoes at him, kind of thing.
Put it on me. Put it on me.
Yeah, you meant to be the shoemaker. Come on, brainless, whatever.
Yeah. Okay, we are into extra time. So it's time for final thoughts. There's been so much to discuss, and it still feels like, and we actually had a reasonable amount of, we didn't actually read an excessive amount of text. It's not like we were cramming stuff in, but I still feel like we haven't actually had time to really unpack everything. And this is a comedy which is giving us all sorts of actually different things going on. This is very, very, very well structured. And it's just full of options, full of things to dig into and find things, and it's still delivering us potential comedy material all over the place. Yeah, I'm really enjoying this. I don't think I have actually that much more to say myself. Let's go around the room if people have other thoughts. Dan, do you have any final thoughts about the play so far? I think this is your last session with us, so speak now or forever hold your peace.
Yes, it is my last session on it. So shame I won't be able to come tomorrow. At least for me, it is. This is reminding me of what I'm liking about this play is that it's not necessarily. I mean, there's a plot. There are a few plots, but it's not really plot driven. I don't think. Nor is it action driven. It feels more just character driven. I mean, character development. It's really just more concerned about that, and situation, as in situation comedy. And it's kind of like I'd want to watch a series by who I call the Blade Runner, Thomas Dekker, and see whatever characters he's put, whatever situations he's putting them in. This just happens to center around a shoemaker, and then the shoemaker and his friends. I'm less concerned about what's happening versus what kind of zany situations they're going to get themselves in. So it's actually funny without hitting you over the head. It's moving at a cracking pace, and it's not overdone either. I don't think I'm not getting tired of any plot lines or any characters or any sort of type of humor. In fact, it's just really well drawn out. So, yes, thumbs up, and hope this gets put on more often, or put on at all, I should say.
I mean, it doesn't have a terrible production history, but it has sort of foundered a bit of late. It's sort of dropped off the edge, I think. It's not. I don't think it's as performed as it used to be, but I could be wrong on that. I haven't done literally no research. Briony, you've popped in for a session with almost no prep from we didn't even explain the plot very clear, but as Dan said, plot, yeah, it doesn't matter. Briony, any final thoughts?
Yeah, it's a total contrast from what I last read with you guys, which was like a memoir on whenever that was. But yeah, it's just really light and colourful and character based, which I'm just really enjoying.
Excellent. Rachael, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like there's some of the people in this are like, it's kind of like Jane Austen's Emma, like the reading of all these romances and then the desire to create them in their own life. Then you have the serious romance between Rafe and Jane. And then you have what Dan just called the zany characters that you do really just want to see what they're up to. And I've really enjoyed all of this. There's so much to play with it, and there's so much. The characters are colorful, the verse is great, the composition of some of these scenes are so like phenomenal, like that scene between Jane and Hammon are like that's really juicy, I think, and there's so much there.
Aliki, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I really want to have that scene between Hammon and Jane be one about his entitlement and callousness, not about him being out to deceive her that her husband is dead, because that way we have a comedy without any villains. Even, the Lord Mayor doesn't, and Lord Lincoln, or the Earl of Lincoln, whatever he is, they're not evil. They just think it's a bad marriage, and they might be right. And I like that. I like the idea of a comedy without a bad guy in it, where things go wrong because people have mistaken ideas about each other and not because they're out to get anyone.
Lynn, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I like that, Aliki. That let's maybe, let's not play up the unlikableness of anybody, because why? And I really liked what Helen said a little earlier about Jane and Rafe are in a different play, because I'm really interested in genre, and she's totally right. The rest of the play is a city comedy, and they're in a romance, generically a romance. With as it relates to fairy tale, mistaken identity, and in the end the true identity is revealed. So yeah, a challenge might be to not have the seams show between the romance and the city comedy, but overall it's just really delightful.
Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, it's moving at a good pace. I think it's getting a fairly low score on our early modern bingo. We're completely lacking many of the xenophobic tropes that we get. We've managed to almost complete absence of classical references.
We've had 2 disguises.
Yeah, we've had a couple of disguises. We haven't had a bed trick, but yeah, it's working quite well and seems to hold up reasonably at pace.
Eric, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like we've talked about that scene between Hammon and Jane quite a lot, but I feel like that is one of those scenes that feels quite modern enough to actually quite pull out, and like if you workshop it, you could actually, and you set it in a modern setting. I mean, not to set the whole play in a modern setting, but just that scene, it would be very relevant today. Sort of man not understanding that no means no, and please just leave me alone kind of thing. But it depends how far you want to go with that. And also, I was like, while we were doing that scene, I was like, I was actually actively thinking, why are not any of the women in this room playing this? I mean, I know that the casting is random, but it was just like, I know that they can do this so much better than I can. And just kind of, what do you call it? Because of the relevance of it as well. I don't know, just, yeah.
Well, it's interesting. We do actually have it's a play with a good selection of female parts as well. I mean, for the early modern period, that's quite good, as well as a lot of boys or young men. So it's interesting actually what parts of the acting company this is stretching actually in terms of in the sense that the women would be mostly played by younger end of the acting group, and also there's young men playing the younger end. So I'm interested actually how many of these are older parts in real terms and how that dynamic works with whichever company. That's a historian's issue. I don't really care. But also, Helen, any final thoughts?
Yes, I don't know this play nearly as well as I thought I did. I mean, it's one of those plays where everybody knows about it, but I'm constantly being surprised by it. 2 things that I've noted. One is that the Dutch integrates very well into the play. One is never really in doubt about what's being said, and it somehow seems to work well. And that's one. And the second is, if you're taking this from a 1599 point of view, Hammond's marriage is not one that Jane could really have refused. It is an extraordinarily good match for her. I mean, it's all her Christmases come at once. All she's got to do is put up with the man, which in early modern terms is no big deal.
And now we come, I've gone around final thoughts relatively swiftly, and I was glad we did, because we now come to the most important question of the play. And we're far enough into the text now for people to start having opinions on it, which is where to place the apostrophe. So, is it the Shoemakers Holiday, as in all the shoemakers, or is it specifically a specific Shoemakers Holiday?
All.
I feel that the scene we did earlier with all the shoemakers having our holiday does pushes in that direction, but it was put forward by the principal shoemaker Eyre, so some people might go the other way. There's a reason why your scripts does not have one, because I haven't taken a position. Anyone would like to put forward other opinions? Alan?
Well, given that the patron saint of shoemakers is Crispin Crispianus, and 1 or 2 of the references I noted earlier on, but we didn't comment about because of the rules of the game, I do wonder whether there's a link there.
Yeah, but does that answer where are you on all or a specific?
I think it's a holiday for all shoemakers, but we did also get a reference to a holiday as being a Monday, which I found slightly odd. I think it was towards the end of yesterday's session.
Missed that. We might dig into that later.
It was part of one of the interchanges between the guys in the workshop and Margery.
Well, if we find it, we'll dig into that. Other thoughts on? Are we all basically at the moment going with general general shoemakers rather than or Eyre shoemaker, as it were? Aliki.
Lynn in chat says it's singular.
Oh no. There are varying opinions. There isn't a consensus.
I thought I always used to think that, but now I'm reconsidering that interpretation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm of the plural shoemaker. There's just so much made of the gentle trade and so on. I was kind of starting to wonder whether the Shoemakers Guild had sponsored the play or something.
Okay. I mean, it's the kind of important thing, when you're doing your posters and things, to make a decision as to where you're putting the damn thing, because you know what, you'll get complaints. Either way, whichever way, and anyone who's watched Blake 7 will know that the apostrophe there is mostly absent.
What it's worth, it's not printed there. The apostrophe.
Exactly. That's why we're in this modern hell. I mean, we could just leave it out and just leave it to the audiences. Lead it out to the audience. Eric.
This is not quite like relevant to your title question, but I was just thinking that maybe Firk is, because you pointed out that this is actually like sort of could also be a younger men's company. I mean, boys and older. Yeah. I was just wondering if Firk is doubling with Jane, because he does go on. They have that thing about his voice being a bit squeaky, so maybe like he's also playing one of the ladies' parts as well. No, I mean, because we've not talked about doubling either.
Yeah, I mean, there is a question about doubling. I don't think it's actually as difficult as I thought it was when I did the sheets for this week with a playing company. It's the Lord Admiral's players for the production, so it's not like we've got a lot of boys flying around as a boys' company would. Okay, any other things to throw in at this point before I close the session?
Quick question, Rob. Do we have any information on what company was involved in the original production?
The Lord Admiral's men.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, payment was made in 1599.
So yeah, we've got actually quite a lot of data on I think of that sort of area. So yeah, definitely them peeps. Okay, well, we've got one more session to go. I'm hoping that the curse of the final session does not turn up and we'll walk away disappointed and feeling slightly dirty. All that remains is to thank all the wonderful readers for their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. Our buttocks went jiggy-joggy like a quagmire.